So welcome to our meditation time today. I am so happy to get to be here and spend these few minutes on this evening with each of you. And I just love the idea of us showing up collectively, for us each to have our own individual meditation practice, but for us to practice it together. And we can just rest in the assurance that around the globe, there are people doing exactly what we're doing here in this moment. So let's just settle in. Each of us in our own space. If it's that familiar spot where you always arrive, just settle in and feel the familiarity of it. If you're in a spot that is new for you, then just allow yourself to make it feel comfortable, physically, mentally, emotionally, and let it be your space for these few minutes that we have. And as you're settling in and the body is beginning to just really anchor in, whether you are seated or lying down, start to notice, what's your breath feel like right now? Whatever activity you had going on just before you came for this, just see how the breath feels. And then begin to allow it to slow and to deepen and to feel less rushed. And as we arrive to this present moment together, just remind yourself, this is a practice. You know, we show up to meditation, we set intentions, we feel so positively charged by these few minutes of respite from the busyness of the world. And then we go back out and we live. And there are often times that I know for myself, and I'm sure for you as well, that we feel like the world systematically kind of undoes whatever we feel like we've achieved in meditation. And so I would just invite each of us just to not think about achieving anything. Just be in the moment. And then that will help you to navigate whatever the world has for you once you leave. And when the next day comes and the day after that. So don't think of this practice as something we're trying to master or get good at. We are just committing to show up. We show up as we are in the present moment. And hopefully we realize as we sit and we are together that how we show up is good enough. And so let's just begin to take a few breaths together, and then I'll settle us in and help us to focus for these few minutes. So let's take a long, slow breath in. And then I would invite you just to sigh it out. And a long, slow breath in. And sigh it out. And one more. And let it go. And then just continue the rhythm of breath that feels right for you. I can't help, though, in those moments of breathing like that, just to marvel how when I breathe out, my body knows just what to hold on to nourish me, and just what to turn loose of that I don't need. It is such a message for me in all the parts of my life to learn to hold on to the stuff that nourishes me and let go of the rest. And so for these few minutes that we have today and over the next couple of times that we're together, I want to share with you this yogic principle, or this yogic concept that we have called the gunas. And the gunas are, it's not so important about the what, but it really is about how they manifest in our life. So there's three kinds of gunas, and these are like three forces that are at work within us. And it's something that's been around for thousands of years. And what we know about these forces is that they tend to operate at all times of the day. And there's one that's called TAMAS, that's a Sanskrit word, and it means the heaviness. Almost like you have no energy, mental or physical or emotional, to do anything. And then there's one that's called Rajas, and it's the energy that's just in overdrive, and it's highly motivated, and it's highly driven. And then there's a third guna that's called Sattva, and it's the sweet spot. It's where you are in full balance mentally, emotionally, physically, where you feel like you are able to do what you need to do the things that are part of your path and your purpose, and to do them with the right spirit, with the right motivation. But what tends to happen to us, what we've learned over these thousands of years of studying and passing along these lessons, is that throughout our day, we all experience moments of all three. We all experience moments where we are heavy, physically or mentally or emotionally. We all experience moments in our day where we just kick it into overdrive and we push and we go and we engage. And then we also all experience days that have moments where we feel in balance, like everything's working the way that it should. Sometimes, sadly, we think those moments are the most short-lived. But what we learn from this concept of these gunas, these forces that are at work in all human beings, is that they all exist within us. It's what we do with them that really determines how much they persist and how much they manifest. And so today we're going to focus on this concept of tamas, and then the next time we're together we'll look at rajas, and then the last time we're together across these few days we'll look at sattva, of that beautiful place of balance. But I want to start with tamas because it tends to be the one where we get the most stuck. Tamas is heaviness. It's a sense of feeling like your power is frozen. Sometimes it's things that we feel are caused by other people, by circumstances of life, by illness, by loss. But tamas is something that if we're not careful, can cause us to lose our courage, to lose sight of our purpose, and sometimes can cause us to forget to live. And we just go through the motions of just existing. And so what I would invite you to do, and I'm going to ask myself the same question, is just think for a moment. Where does the heaviness exist in my life right now? Is it in the physical realm of who you are? Is it in the emotional realm? Is it in the mental realm? For some of us, is it a mix of many of those? Because we have to identify the places within us that are heavy and that are stuck and that are frozen, so that we can begin to find a way out. And what our meditation practice teaches us is that the tools to get out are already within us. But we got to know what it is that's causing the heaviness. And so let's just each pause and just reflect. And maybe not answer the question necessarily with a list, but just ask yourself, where am I feeling heavy right now in life? Is it in a relationship? Is it in my physical health? Is it connected to the loss of someone? Is it connected to my finances or my job, my professional role? Is it connected to how I see myself? Or for some, is it tied to an old trauma, an old situation that still tends to have a hold in your life? Where do you feel heavy? And as you ask yourself that question, some of you may already have things that are coming to mind. The first thing I want to do is I want to validate there's nothing wrong with us because we feel heavy. It doesn't mean that we are any less of a meditator or a yogi or a Christian or a whatever title you want to put on yourself. It doesn't mean that you are any less of any of those things. It just means that there are circumstances in our lives that we need some tools to work through. And so the first step is recognizing the heaviness. The second step is a meditation practice. There's this beautiful analogy that says your meditation practice is like the light that melts the glacier, the frozen parts of you, so that you can begin to move again. And so as you show up to meditate, as you become still and quiet, little by little, energy becomes released. Power becomes restored. And patterns and habits that don't serve us get interrupted. That doesn't mean that after just a little bit of meditation time that all of a sudden the heaviness goes away. But what happens is we start to see a way out. If your heaviness is connected to the loss of someone, that loss doesn't just leave, but its debilitating effect on your life can become less. If your heaviness is connected to an old trauma from long ago, it will still be part of your story, but its power over you today can begin to decrease. If your heaviness is connected to an illness or something physically manifested within you, that diagnosis or that thing doesn't just leave, but our ability to navigate and to thrive even within it can begin to grow. So I would encourage each of us, because we all have these heavy things, and chances are that in the weeks and months to come, some of us will experience new heavy things. But what this concept of gunas, these forces, teach us is that you navigate these things in your life without allowing them to cause you to become frozen or stuck. So let's just sit again for just a moment of quiet and reflect, continuing to breathe in and out as you do. And as you're reflecting, just like I said when we first began, I need you each, and I need myself as well, to accept that how I show up today is good enough. Me with my heaviness, with whatever name it has on it, whatever picture it is, I show up with it and it's good enough. And I sit in stillness in this present moment and I begin to see a way through it. One breath at a time. I made a comment when we were breathing earlier about how I marvel with the exhale of how my body knows what to hold on to nourish me and what to breathe out and let go of. And so every breath that I take, I have an example of how I can process the TAMAS, the heaviness of life. I can let in and hold on to the stuff that nourishes me, and I can turn loose of the rest. And so as we are each just kind of grappling with and being aware of each of our thing that's making us heavy, I want to validate how real they are for each of us. Our traumas are real. Our illnesses are real. The broken hearts from lost relationships is real. Each of these things that you feel, that you experience, is real. And I would never simplify it by saying that if you will just show up to meditation, it will become less heavy, unless I knew that to be true. I know that my traumas have contributed to my story. And I also know about the parts of my life, the years when they had a lot of power over each move that I made. But every time I show up and I sit in meditation, I have this overwhelming desire to be less heavy and to feel more light. And if you can commit to that each time you show up, the heaviness will begin to lessen. And then when that new situation comes, its effect on your life will not be nearly the same as the ones before. So I would invite each of us for these last just little bit of time that we have, I'd like for you to picture a glacier. If you've ever seen one in real life, what a magnificent thing it is. If not, just picture what you have seen on a picture, on a screen, this idea of this glacier. And what we know about what's going on in our world environmentally, with climate and all the things around us, is that those glaciers are melting. But we also know that it's a process. And while it's a terrible and a sad thing, it is an example for us to remember the time that that process takes for that glacier to begin to melt. Let that glacier represent the heaviness that's in your life right now. And just commit. It's a journey. It's a process. And it's going to take time. But each time you show up and you become still and quiet at whatever points in your day that you pause for meditation, you are moving yourself a little further away from the heaviness and its power over your life. So just see that glacier as your reminder, little by little, breath by breath. We breathe in and we nourish ourselves with what we need. And we let the rest go. So let's just close out with 3 cleansing breaths. And I would invite you, I'm going to sigh really big and really loud when I exhale. And I would encourage you in your space to do the same. And let it be a physical, audible reminder of the power that we have to let go. Take a long, slow, deep breath in. Release what you don't need. Long, slow breath in. Release what you don't need. One more deep breath in. And let go of what you don't need. TAMAS exists in each of our lives every single day. But we don't have to let it have control and power over us. One breath, one moment at a time, the heaviness will begin to lift and the light will come. Namaste.